Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by my guy, Nate Weitzer, on the East Coast. We are back on the East Coast, Nate, for Game 7. We all love to hear it in the NBA playoffs. We got Bucks and Nets back in Brooklyn. We're looking at a pretty even matchup so far. I don't know what to expect yet. We'll get into all best bets and things we need to know. We're going to forward a gift card opportunity here, as no one was able to get Giannis's points, rebounds, and assists correct in the last game. He had 50. Everybody danced around it. But either way, make sure you are liked and subscribed to the page and jump in the comments, as you will be eligible, thusly, to win the gift card that we will offer based on the player prop we'll give you here in just a moment. And if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find all those listings and playoff promos in your area. Nate, let's jump into it.
Yeah, the line is pretty much dead even right now. Bucks are +1. The money line for both squads around -110. That's your standard. And the total at 215. I don't know if anyone knows really what to expect because the Bucks, it just seemed they're so much healthier. They're so much more superior physically that they just have to be a little bit smarter to dominate, as they did in Game 6. But they have not shown any sort of consistency in regards to an intelligent game plan, especially in Brooklyn. They have routinely crapped the bed. I mean, Chris Middleton was a revelation in Milwaukee. He's averaging over 30 points per game on 50% shooting from deep versus in Brooklyn this series. He's averaging about 18 points per game, shooting 26% from deep, 32% from the field. I think KD, they talk about Giannis trying to take on the challenge of guarding KD. I think KD has to switch out onto Middleton. He was killing the Nets. I mean, that Game 6 would have been close, honestly, if they had that answer for Middleton, right? He just was rising over smaller defenders, shooting or getting fouled, and just took the wind out of the Nets' sails. That brings to another indication, which is that I think this game will be more high-scoring down the stretch because the Nets really did pack it in for Game 6. As we sort of predicted, it could go one of two ways, and it did. Once it got away from them in Game 3, they just stopped scoring altogether, took Harden off the floor. But with Harden looking pretty good in terms of at least producing some offensive production, getting his three off, getting to the rim a little bit, becoming a threat enough to open things up so that guys like Joe Harris and Landry Shamet can hit threes. I think the Nets offense will return as we go back to Brooklyn. I mean, we've seen it in every game this series. I think they'll get over 108.5. And I think we both feel if it's a close game down the stretch that the Nets will pull it out just because of the Bucks' inability to, we just talk about it to coach, right? I mean, I said to you, I think Mike Budenholzer, even if they win this series, should be fired. And I know you have a sneaky candidate to replace him, so I'll let you take over on that one.
Maybe not so sneaky if you consider who the best coach available is right now after the bombshell news in Dallas that Rick Carlisle was out. Just the way that Rick Carlisle tweeted out what he did in terms of I'm excited for my next chapter. And it's like, that doesn't sound like a guy who's about to go spend time with his family and take some vacations. Sounds like he kind of has his next move planned. And I mean, honestly, what's hilarious is you sent me somewhat of a funny take in terms of even if the Bucks win the championship, is Mike Budenholzer fired before next season? And I laughed, and then I go, well, they're kind of winning despite him when they do, because they're still trying to give the game away every time. And what's interesting is, the game that we talked about for Game 6 ahead of that, I think it played out exactly as we thought it would. There was a pivotal moment in the third quarter where it could have gone two ways. And we saw the Nets hanging around. They didn't put KD on Middleton, to your point, because they're not trying to exert KD to that extent and get him hurt, even on the offensive end. So why would they do that with him on the defensive end of this game? They came as close as possible to punting this game by really just monitoring it until the middle of the third quarter. And then, things were close. They were within 6 at one point. The Bucks decided to go, we can't afford to be up less than double digits, going into the fourth quarter and into the beginning of the fourth quarter, especially because if this game gets close, not only does the other team have closers, we have a guy who's our best player who can't go to the free throw line. We cannot afford that. And not only does it affect his actual output when he's put at the line, it affects his mental, thinking ahead of the play, as we saw him fumble that ball in game 5, thinking about, I got to get to the rim really quickly. I can't get fouled. I'm not going to be able to get 2 points that way. And so, I think everything set up that, if the what happened did in terms of the Bucks taking over, going up double digits, we always knew Nash was going to sit his guys as soon as he saw 12 to 15 point deficit, and make sure that Harden and KD were healthy for game 7. So I think James Harden having another day a couple days to at least rest that hamstring a little bit. He certainly didn't exert any energy on defense with an individual rating of 122 points per 100 possessions. So I think he's not exactly saving it for the defensive end still in game 7. There's other guys that do that for the Nets, but I do think you can expect the role players, once again, as we've seen, continue to believe, I think, what you've seen. This first half, I know we both like both teams to hit the over and 53 points in the first half. I do think that, these teams will come out scoring, and then you'll start to see it be a little bit slower pace, which honestly is what the Nets want, so that KD can come down and control things. They love half-court offense. They've got 2 of the best half-court offensive players in the league on their team, even with James Harden on a hobbled leg. So, I think I'm going to look to live bet this thing, and if the Bucks do even take a nice first half lead of any kind, and you start to see them as the favorites on the total line of the game, then I'd feel good about continuing to hit that money line as it might raise for the Nets.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be the most fun way to watch this game is to either live bet it or just take those first half totals, and then you can kind of just sit back and watch what happens, because it's going to be a fun finish, you think, for game 7. I definitely trust the Bucks to get over 53 points in the first half. I mean, really, for the first 3 quarters for Giannis, they have no answers for him other than to hope that those block charge calls go their way. Once he decides to stop going, stop not going inside, the key stat for him in the last game, right? 0 for 0 from the 3-point line.
Oh, man.
He really only took about 2 jumpers. I think he made 1, missed 1. And otherwise was basically just putting dudes in the basket and laying it up. I think Brooklyn will be a little more prepared for that and will be ready to flop when he does lower that shoulder. So foul trouble might be an issue, but I don't think we'll see as bad a game for Middleton in Brooklyn as he comes in on such a roll right now. I think Drew Holiday's finally finding his rhythm. I think the Bucks can score. I think both teams will come out scoring and get us over 106 for that first half before slowing down, similar to what we saw last time. But then down the stretch, Josh, this is your stat, but I'm stealing it.
I love it. I love it.
The Bucks went 9-26 this season in games decided by 5 points or less. So you have to take a money line bet. It's going to be the Nets. If you do want to parlay that with the over at 215 pre-reasonable, you get plus 250 on DraftKings. And I would also look at Harden to get over his 18.5 points, at Jeff Green to get over his 13.5 points or 2.5 threes, because I think those are going to be the guys along KD and Joe Harris and Landry Shamet as well to step up with the Bucks, really giving KD a ton of attention as he deserves.
Yep, and that is the stat of the day. Thank you, StatMuse, for that one. They are a sponsor. Since they become a sponsor of the NBA or a partner of the NBA, StatMuse has some fire stats. But yeah, that's huge, I think, in terms of, you said 9-26 in games decided by 5 or less this series, and that is pretty close to the opposite of what we've seen from Brooklyn all regular season, when they have 2 of their 3 guys, as they will for Game 7. So yeah, I think to make sure that I can get some juice on this game and not be out of it before the game ends, or the first half ends, I am going to take Brooklyn's money line. Because of that reason there. I do like the overs, and I really, I want this game to go how I want it to go, so I can hit, I want the game to be high scoring in the first half with the Bucks doing very well no matter what. have that that money line for Brooklyn juice up, have that total go up, maybe get it to 220 by the time the first half is over, and then go ahead and hit under on that. That's kind of what I'm hoping to happen. But like I said, no matter what, I'm liking the parlay of maybe even a tease, or honestly get the Nets with plus money, just so I can get that total to take the under a little bit, get that up to about 219. So that's something else I'm looking at. But yeah, I also will continue to eye Giannis's total, as I think he came in and he goes, you guys want to punk me? You want to tell me I shouldn't shoot threes, or I can't score, and no matter what, whatever, I'll just go ahead and bully people. But at the same time, one thing we talked about before Game 6, Milwaukee's going to get the calls. There was an amazing play where Giannis basically threw the ball up to himself, caught it. That was a travel. Then elbowed Jeff Green in the face, and they called a foul on Jeff Green. And it was like, that ain't happening in Brooklyn. So I'm excited to see how that game is called, probably in a way that KD will be able to go off. That is all the time we have ahead of this super exciting Game 7. I know everybody's going to be tuned in on a Saturday evening or afternoon, depending on where you are. I know we will be having maybe a little even of a side bet, Nate. We'll talk about some of that offline. But until we see you guys.
And the Giannis KD point total has to be what people know is our gift card for this final game of the series. You can get plus 900, I believe, on them both to score 40 points on DraftKings if you're into that sort of long shot bet. I mean, it's not completely out of the question. I think it's more of a long shot that Giannis gets 40. KD definitely could. But either way, you want to bet around the 80s, put that in the comments, like and subscribe to the video, and we'll get a gift card out if somebody gets that right.
Thank you, sir. As he said, make sure you're liked and subscribed to the page to be eligible to win the gift card opportunity of Giannis's and KD's combined point total in this Game 7. And now that is all the time that we have, y'all. We will see you guys before the next round of these amazing playoffs as they roll on. And until then, happy betting.